Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's an honor to be here again. Our organization puts together 31 parties of center-right in Latin America that are members of our global political family, so it's a pleasure to be talking to our family here in Europe. And I'm just going to introduce Orlando Gutierrez Boronat. He's one of the most important leaders of the Cuban resistance. He's doing a tremendous work in our region, and all our parties, 31 parties, are strongly supporting his work. So it's really important that you know that we have to work together in this. Cuba, it's over the table. We are not talking only about Venezuela. Venezuela is now in the front of all the newspapers, but we have to work over Cuba. It's where the origin of the problem begins in our region, so we have to work in the transition to democracy in Cuba. So we are strongly supporting Orlando, and he has really important things to share with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Dr. Orlando Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to speak before this parliamentary group of the Popular Party of Europe. And I also want to thank the Union of Latin American Political Parties and Julian Obiglio for their courageous work in advocating for Cuban democracy in Latin America. We want to express our full support for the emergency resolution, the urgent resolution on José Daniel Ferrer. He is a martyr of the struggle for democracy in Cuba, with almost 20 years of imprisonment for his commitment to his people and to a better life of freedom and justice and dignity for the Cuban nation. We support this urgent resolution because his life is endangered. José Daniel Ferrer is just one of many cases of over 1,000 political prisoners, of over 100 women political prisoners in Cuba now, who are a perfect example of why the political cooperation and development agreement that the European Union entered into with the Castro regime 7 years ago is a failure. As the Swedish government noted in November, this agreement was supposed to improve the human rights situation in Cuba and to separate the Castro dictatorship from Moscow. Neither one has occurred. Today, the human rights situation in Cuba, although unimaginably so, but it has happened, is even worse than 7 years ago. Like I said, over 1,000 political prisoners, constant repression, constant protests being put down by the regime. And in addition to that, we had the full integration of the Castro regime with Russia in the genocidal war against the people of Ukraine. Over 5,000 Cuban troops are in Ukraine fighting under Russian orders against the Ukrainian people. This has been duly documented by Ukrainian authorities. Yermak has spoken publicly about this. I was in Ukraine a month ago and I interviewed one of the Cuban prisoners of war. And these 5,000 troops consist of 60% of young men who've been fooled and manipulated into going to be cannon fodder in that war, and 40% of the special forces of the regime, the Black Berets, who are now in Ukraine under Russian orders and also in Belarus as a result of the joint agreement between the dictatorships in Minsk and in Havana. These same Black Beret special forces of the Castro regime are the ones being sent to Venezuela now to consolidate the Maduro dictatorship, and the ones that were active together with Russian elements in putting down the Nicaraguan uprising of 2018. As the European Parliament, led by this Popular Party of Europe, resolved in the resolutions of February and March of this year, Europe should not be paying the bill for this. Europe should not be giving money to this regime so it can send troops to Ukraine, to Venezuela, to Nicaragua, and further repress its own people. The Political Development and Cooperation Agreement is a betrayal of the Cuban people. And we ask this parliamentary group that has been at the forefront of the efforts to end this heinous agreement to elevate this to the new Commission, to the new executive of the European Union, so that this situation can end. It is incoherent, morally and strategically, to sanction Putin and feed one of Putin's main satellites. We urge you, on the basis of the principles of liberty and democracy, which are the heart of this Parliament, to work with the European Union at all levels to end this subsidy for Putin and his proxies in Latin America. Thank you all.